Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Brandon Gill just lays the smackdown on the Democrats' Elon derangement syndrome. This is gold. Let's dive in.
My colleagues across the aisle who are asking us to get out of the way and stop trying to block things in the courts, let me tell you, we do not work for an unelected billionaire like apparently this guy does. We work for the American people. And so if an unelected, unvetted individual private citizen is hacking our government systems, breaking the law, firing federal employees, dismantling statutorily created agencies, withholding funds, we are going to fight you in the courts. And I'm actually really sad that my dear friend Mr. Burchett left, because I want to talk about that gravy train on biscuit wheels that he just talked about, because that gravy train is not the federal workforce. It's the billionaires that are trying to hack that system right now, and which unfortunately my colleagues right now are working on a reconciliation deal to cut Medicaid, to cut Medicare, and use that money to give to tax breaks to their billionaire buddies.
I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gill, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All we've heard about for most of this hearing from the other side of the aisle is Elon Musk, Elon Musk, Elon Musk, unelected bureaucrat. And I'd like to ask if Democrats really care about unelected bureaucrats making decisions over our lives, where were they whenever their god Anthony Fauci was forcing vaccine and mask mandates on the American people for 4 years during the COVID crisis? Where were they whenever unelected Alejandro Mayorkas was facilitating the invasion of our country by illegal aliens who were murdering and raping and pillaging our people? Where were they whenever the Secretary of Education, unelected Cardona, targeted states and schools and people who were disagreed with his view of the radical left's transgender ideology? Where were they whenever Gary Gensler, former chairman of the SEC, also unelected, was lawlessly thwarting the development of financial markets, particularly in the crypto space, by lawlessly pursuing regulation via enforcement? They were nowhere to be seen because they don't care, because all of those things benefited their side of the aisle at the expense of ours. And perhaps that's also why they don't seem to be very interested in rooting out improper payments from our federal government. If you wonder why so many people are cynical about American politics, this is it. This is exactly why. The reality is that Elon Musk serves as an employee of the president, and we were given a massive mandate to carry out what he's been doing. His job is to carry out the will of the American people as expressed through the executive. That's exactly how the Constitution is supposed to work. The Constitution did not create an unelected, unaccountable fourth branch of government in the administrative state. The Democrat Party has for decades systematically grown and weaponized the administrative state against the American people, and the American people have had enough of it. Right now, we're talking about $2.7 trillion in improper payments since 2003. We're uncovering what could be the biggest money laundering scandal in American history. And the other side of the aisle could care less. They have no concern about where this money went, to what entities it went, to what governments, to what people or groups. Nothing. All they want to talk about is Elon Musk incessantly. So it does make me wonder, if they don't care about where it's going, do they have an idea? Because what we've uncovered so far is that so much of the waste, fraud, and abuse of our federal government is actually funding their side of the aisle. It's funding media outlets that are running cover for Democrats routinely. The NPR, PBS, the BBC, Politico. It's going to fund left-wing NGOs that are facilitating the invasion of our country. It's going to fund left-wing transgender activism and sex changes all over the globe. This is money that's being used, taken from the American people and used against their interests.
Against American interests might only be the tip of this iceberg, and that is the best way to describe this so far. The Democrats, of course, don't know what they're talking about, have been asleep on the wheel, and will continue to cry and complain and moan as the Republican Party, as Donald Trump, and of course, the Department of Government Efficiency, headed up by Elon Musk, who, by the way, is slowly breaking away from the White House to go back and focus on his corporations and companies, because we're starting to find that there's a little miniature civil wars going on over at Twitter, so he's having to put out some fires, and he's still getting everything done. So no wonder they don't like Elon Musk. He's an actual competent bureaucrat, and is making everyone else look bad. But you know what? There's another reason why the Democrats hate Elon Musk. Because in this era of politics, almost everything politicians do is based around feedback in order to get more money for their re-election campaigns. And what they found is the feedback against Elon Musk comes back in basically this giant loop. They say Elon Musk does something bad, the mainstream media reports on it, the people watching mainstream media immediately agree with it, and they give politician money. It's this giant loop that just keeps on working over and over and over again. And of course, like most money laundering schemes, it's not actually based on reality. So, of course, part of it's jealousy. The other part is, well, he took their toys away. Elon took Twitter away from them, and they'll never forgive him for that. But what has been found under Doge has been absolutely astronomical. But there's another number that actually has nothing to do with Doge here, and that is the $2.7 trillion in over 20 years of federal government that have been, that's money, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here. That's money that has been lost due to improper transactions, which is a fancy way of saying, hey, you got scammed, buddy. And this has happened under Republican administrations and Democrat ones. It happened under W. It happened under Obama. It happened under Trump the first time around. And then, of course, it happened under Joe Biden. And I think the buck finally stops here. Very thankfully, the buck does stop here. However, that 2.7 trillion or 2.8 according to the GAO might actually be a bit smaller than the real number because they're not reporting every single part of the federal government. This is bad. And let's just do a quick breakdown of the numbers, shall we? Programs with the largest percentage of government-wide improper payment estimates fiscal year of 2024. Medicare, 54.3 billion. 34% of the improper payments. A third have gone through Medicare, which, by the way, is one of the top expenditures of the federal government. It gets worse. Medicaid, 31.1 billion. Then, oh, by the way, that's half. When you add those two together, 34 and 19%, that's going to get you a good 53%. Yeah, that's over half that has gone to medical fraud. Then the earned income tax credit is about 10% of the number with 15.9 billion, which means that the IRS can't do their own jobs. Talk about bureaucratic incompetence here. Then the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, 10.5 billion. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund, 8.7 billion. And all other programs, and again, that's not even the full number, about 25% with $41 billion. Those numbers are just damning. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the government mismanagement that has been going on at the executive branch. This isn't just Congress's problem, which Congress has enough issues trying to pass any redeemable piece of legislation. It takes even Republicans a whole lot in order to get them united on pretty much anything nowadays. And I'm not saying that to complain about guys like I believe it was Thomas Massey, guys like him. I actually respect the dude. Absolutely love the guy. But it's tough even getting Republicans on board with this agenda. The MAGA movement is no longer just about making sure that we're, making America great again. No, it has also taken those old Tea Party roots, which, by the way, that was my infancy in real introduction into politics. Glenn Beck was sort of my muse when I was going through high school, and then I currently consider myself a disciple of Mike Benz in understanding how our foreign policy works. But understanding how this fraud works, that only makes sense, ladies and gentlemen, if there are people in our government getting direct kickbacks. And to make matters worse, apparently what has been uncovered, I actually did not know this, it's been suspected for a long time. Republicans have talked about it in hushed tones. Conspiracy theorists have been wild about this one. And as usual, they end up being just, prophets 6 months ahead of time. But we're finding out information that, hey, these USAID grants, all this fraud, a lot of them go back to relatives of Democrat members of Congress. They want to keep this bloated monstrosity of a bureaucracy fed and funded in order to get direct kickbacks because it makes their lives easier and it lines their pockets. Folks, that is the worst kind of fraud I can think of when you are skimming from your own taxpayer base. Now, ultimately, these numbers, I don't think that's it. 20 years, only $2.8 trillion in improper payments. I think it's worse. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politbrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.